My name is Ryan Solis. This is my mother. What's her name?
Adriana Reyes,
And how old are you?
49.
So, what year were you born?
1970.
And talk about your date of birth. Where was it?
I was born on January 31st, 1970 in Culver City, California.
And you were born to...
Manuel and Cecilia Reyes.
Okay. So, where were you raised in the first couple of years?
We lived in Los Angeles briefly, and then we moved out to West Covina, California.
What made you guys move?
I'm going to assume because it was a better area. My parents bought a home out in out in West Covina.
So how old were you when you moved to West Covina?
I believe I was about 4.
Okay. How old were you when Veronica was born?
She was born in 72, so I was 2 years old.
Oh, okay.
I was like 2.5.
And how old were you, or how old was Sylvia when
I was
you
born?
Yeah.
She's 5 years older, so she was 5 when I was born.
So you were raised in West Covina?
No, I was raised actually in Hacienda Heights, because from West Covina we moved to Hacienda Heights when I was in 4th grade, and then that's where I grew up.
So where did you go to school in elementary?
Elementary school in West Covina, I went to Hollingsworth, and then in Hacienda Heights I went to Quiz Elementary, but we did end up moving to Ecuador when I was in 5th grade, and there I went to a school called Colegio Americano. Then we moved back after a year, and then I moved back to Hacienda Heights, and then I went to Los Robles Elementary.
So talk about your elementary in West Covina.
I don't really remember too much about it. Did I say I moved when I was in 4th grade? No, right? I went there up till 4th grade at Quiz in Hacienda Heights. In Hollingsworth, I think I only went up to 1st grade there. I don't really remember much about it.
And then you moved to...
Hacienda Heights. From West Covina.
And you stayed there for how many years? Just one?
I was there for like 2 years, and then we moved to Ecuador for 1 year, and then I moved back to Hacienda Heights.
So what were your memories in Ecuador for that year?
Well, we went for vacation because both of my parents are from Ecuador. We went for vacation and we had a great time visiting family and going on little adventures or whatever. But then my parents decided to move there for a business venture that they wanted to pursue. I personally did not want to move to Ecuador, but had to. And when we lived there, it was cool. The school I went to was it was an American school. So they had two sides. One was American side, the other was the national side. National side were kids that were born in Ecuador or lived in Ecuador, spoke Spanish, all that. All their classes were in Spanish, but the American side was all classes were in English. And then we had a lot of foreigners like from Europe and all that, but you had to speak good English to be on that side.
Why did they separate you guys?
I guess because of the language. So, because our side, like I said, was just our classes were held in English. The other side, the national side, was in Spanish. So.
And if foreigners from Europe couldn't speak English or Spanish, then what would happen?
Well, no, the ones that were there spoke very good English. It was kind of like a private school, so my parents had to pay for it, and so people with money would go there. So these foreigners, the ones that are from, even the ones here from the U.S. that live there, or from Europe or whatever, they spoke good English because they were, I guess, where they would come from. They took classes in English.
So, how much Spanish could you speak at that point?
Well, I spoke very good Spanish because that was my first language. I didn't learn English until I went into kindergarten. So, and then I always spoke Spanish at home. We weren't allowed to speak English at home. We can only speak English at school.
So what made you take the English side?
Because I think it was just easier for us because my sisters and I were going to school here, and obviously it's in English. It's just easier than to be taught in Spanish. I don't know if that makes any sense. Even though we spoke fluently in Spanish, we didn't know how to read or write it as well, but we spoke it fluently. So it's just easier for us to go be taught in English.
What were you treated differently compared? Were you treated a certain way by those who spoke Spanish?
There at the school?
Since it's a Spanish country, speaking country?
Yes. The ones that went to that school that were on the national side that spoke Spanish, they were very rich, very well off, and snobby. So yes, they kind of treated us a little differently, a little like, I don't know, they were just snobs.
Do you remember certain...
We didn't really interact a whole lot with them. There were certain things that we did all together, but a lot of times they had like one side of the school and we had the other side of the school. But when we would do things together, activities together, that's when like you felt like, oh, they looked at us like,
You guys were the foreigners.
Right, and like they were better than us. They were snobby.
I see. Now, since it was a private school, did did you guys ever look at public schools like they were kind of like beneath you kind of in class?
As far as public schools there in Ecuador,
Yeah.
I personally did not, because even though it was like a private school, my parents paid for it. It kind of was like a school that you would see here, a public school here. So to me, it wasn't any different. And I guess because we didn't grow up thinking that we were better than others. I don't know.
So growing up, how were you treated compared to Sylvia and Veronica? Let's start with Sylvia first.
We'll start with Sylvia. Well, Sylvia was the oldest. She was the first, not only child of my parents, but she was the first grandchild on my mom's side. Because my mom's family all lived here in California. My dad's side lived in Ecuador. But Sylvia was the first grandchild, so she was spoiled. And then I came along 5 years later. And then 2 years after that, Veronica came along, and so I'm the middle child, and I tease and stuff, like I would tease my mom about being a middle child and how, I was ignored. And to a certain point, it is true. Like, they kind of forget about you because they're, the first one, the first child, the first grandchild is everything. So everyone pays attention. And then you have someone else who comes along, and then me. And then, when my baby sister came along, then it's like everyone's like, oh, about the baby. So, like, the middle child gets forgotten a bit. My mom likes to say that it was because I was a good kid, so that I didn't need, I didn't cause any trouble or anything like that, but I don't really necessarily see it that way. I see it as, they paid attention to the older one because she was older, and the younger one because she was the baby. So even... Well, you were 2 when Veronica was born, so you don't really remember how they treated you.
Then no, that I'm talking more so when I was a little older.
Okay.
Yeah, because at 2, I don't remember.
What were your friends like growing up? Who was your best friend in Ecuador?
Sad to say, I don't even remember her. I didn't really have. I had friends, but I didn't necessarily have best friends there in Ecuador. I do remember 2 boys that were more friends with me than some of the girls. Carlos and Freddie. But as far as girls, I can't say I remember. No.
And you would hang out with Carlos and Freddie, or it would just be like kind of a school thing?
Just mainly at school. I don't think I did anything with any kids after school, honestly. I don't think... I was very shy when I was young. Very shy. So I think for the year that we were there in Ecuador, I don't think I did anything with kids after school.
And what was the town or city that you guys lived in?
We lived in the capital, which was Quito, or is Quito.
And how was life there?
It's more easygoing than it is here, for sure. It's a beautiful country. I don't know. Everything is like, it just seems fresher, more natural as far as foods and stuff go.
it's very, I don't know, slower paced than it is here in the U.S.
And what was life at school like over there?
It's kind of similar to how it was here. Like the teachers, the teacher, he was cool. He was an American. And I also had a Spanish class, so a different teacher, and he only spoke Spanish. But it was very similar to how public schools here in the U.S. Or actually here in California, because I don't know about other states, but here in California.
And they're going back to like the teachers. Did the teachers treat you differently? Like the Spanish teachers treat you differently compared?
I don't think so. No, I didn't feel that they did. Yeah, no, I wouldn't say that they did.
And then, how long were you there in Ecuador at that time?
We lived there for a year.
Okay.
So all of my 5th grade, I was there.
So you went back for your 6th grade?
So I came back to California for 6th grade.
To the same school?
No, I went actually to another school in Hacienda Heights, and it was called Los Robles.
Was there a culture change that you had to adjust to?
When we came back, or when we moved over there?
Yeah, when you guys first moved over there.
When we moved over there, yes, because it's I don't know, it's different. Like here, everyone drives around in cars, and you can't go anywhere without a car here. Over there, you would walk to a lot of places, or everything was. I don't believe I think we had a car, but maybe not at first while we were there. Here, it's necessary. You have to have one. Over there, we didn't necessarily have one at the very beginning. We eventually got one, but we would either, if we were going to go somewhere far, you take a taxi or you just walk. So that's different than how it is here. People seem friendlier over there than they are here.
In what way?
Because you know your neighbors and stuff like that. Here, you don't necessarily do.
Would you make more of an effort over there to talk to your neighbors?
No, well, I was little, so, and like I said, I was very shy, so no. But people just seem warmer, more, I don't know, more welcoming than people here in the U.S.
And then moving back to California, was there a culture change that you kind of had to adjust to again?
Not too much. I think because we were just gone for a year, so not really. I mean, I had to adjust going to another school, and at that time I was in 6th grade, and I was very shy, so trying to meet new friends was a little difficult at first for me. But then again, because I was a new girl, then it was like people were interested in getting to know who I was. But because I was shy, it was harder, I guess. So.
And what made you guys move from Ecuador back to California?
My parents went into business with a family friend, and that family friend pretty much stole from them, from the business, and so they decided to just close the business and move back.
Were you excited to move back?
Yes, because I never wanted to go. I actually wanted to stay here with my mom's parents, but they wouldn't let me.
And what about Veronica and Sylvia?
I think Veronica was excited to come back too. Sylvia, I don't know. I think it was because while we were there, she met her future husband. So she kind of was like not really wanting, to come back.
At what age was she?
She was like 15 when we were there. 15, 16, something like that.
So she met Pablo at 16?
She met him, yeah, while we were there. And when we came back, he actually moved back to the U.S. as well. Or not back, but he came to the U.S. And then they dated for many, many years and eventually got married. But that's where they met.
Did he live in the U.S.?
Mm-hmm. No, never. Never before then, no. He came because of her. And he's older, so...
So she was 16 when he was...
like 20, 21 maybe. Something like that. Yeah.
He moved by himself?
He has family that lived here. Some cousins or something like that, so he came to stay with them. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Growing up, were you in the U.S.? Were you discriminated against?
I don't think I've ever... Growing up, I don't feel like I ever was discriminated against. Maybe later in life, but not when I was younger. No, I don't feel that I was.
And then, what junior high did you go to?
Orange Grove Junior High.
How was it there?
I liked it. Because going to just the 6th grade for that 1 year and then making new friends and stuff, and then going on to junior high with those new friends was fun, because I had made some really good friendships, and I enjoyed junior high. We had the teachers all there were great. It was I don't know, it was good.
Who was your best friend?
Her name is Yvonne Glazer. She was my best friend at that time. I also had another best friend, Daniela Arrico. She was an Italian girl, and the three of us were best friends, but Daniela ended up moving back to Italy in high school. So...
And how was that?
I was sad, very sad, because she was, one of my best friends, and then we kind of lost touch after that. We wrote at first, but then you start getting busy with your own lives, and you kind of just, separate.
And going back to junior high, did you go to any parties?
Not parties, but we would go to dances, school dances, parties, maybe like for friends' birthdays and stuff, that kind of party. But I did more things, that's when I started to do a little more things. I was still very shy, but we would go and hang out.
What was your most memorable experience in junior high school?
In junior high? I think that might have been the trip to Washington, D.C. in 8th grade. You know,
What year was that?
oh boy, maybe 83, 1983, maybe 82, 83, something like that. Yeah, so it's just kind of like how they now have that, you know, in schools too, the whole trip to Washington, D.C., and then you get to go like to New York, or different schools go different areas, and we went to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, right? And then we went to Virginia, we went to New York, we went to Washington, D.C. So that was pretty cool. Like, we got to see all the, you know, historical landmarks and stuff, which was pretty awesome.
What was your favorite city?
I think I enjoyed staying in Washington, D.C. the most because of all the history behind it. New York was fun too, but we were little, like, it seemed a little too crazy, too busy, like, than what we were used to here in California. So, but that was it was nice too, but I think I enjoyed Washington, D.C. the most.
Were you scared to be in another state?
No, actually I was not. I'm not afraid.
So high school, you went to which school?
Los Altos High School in Hacienda Heights.
And what year did you graduate?
1988.
I was freshman year.
Freshman year was a little scary, I guess, because it was, you know, a bigger school, and then 2 junior highs flooded into that, or 3 junior highs flooded into that high school. So, which was kind of cool for me because I went to the elementary school on the other side of Hacienda Heights, Quis. So I met up with a lot of my friends from back in elementary, like in 2nd, 3rd, 4th grade. I met up again with them in high school. So, but it was a little scary, you know, kind of made you a little nervous because then it's, you know, big school. You go to different classes, you know, with different teachers, and having to know your schedule and all that. But then again, it was cool, like I said, because I get to meet up with old friends.
So, in freshman year, who would you say was your top friends?
Well, Yvonne Glazer. Daniela was there, I think, until the summer of right before we became sophomores. So the 3 of us were best friends still all through our freshman year. Then one of my old friends, Karen Corral from Quis, we started to hang out, you know, again too. So.
Did you go to any parties freshman year?
Not really parties. Again, it was more school dances. I don't think like the parties and stuff happened till like maybe sophomore year. And then, you know, I started to drive, and then I was able to go to parties and stuff. But like freshman year is mainly, you know, school dances or church dances, because our church used to have dances. So.
Which grade did you start playing an instrument?
I learned how to play the flute in 6th grade.
So junior high, you were on the band team?
Yeah, I was in the junior high band in junior high and then throughout high school, except my senior year. I didn't play.
So were you in band freshman year?
Yes. And in
Were
high
you-
school, it's also like they have the marching bands, marching band season, and then they have concert season. So marching band obviously is like, for like football games, you're out there and you do routines and as you're playing your instrument, and then we would go to competitions. And then concert band was where you would sit in a chair and, play.
Do you feel like you were ever judged or bullied for being in band?
Yes. Of course, you laugh, we laugh at it now and stuff, but, and it wasn't really people from our own school that would judge, because Los Altos was known, when I was going there, our band was amazing. Like, it was probably one of the best high school bands around at that time. But it was like from people from other schools kind of would judge and like make fun and like you're a nerd or you're a geek. But I never saw myself that way. Because I had friends that weren't in band too, So like my real friends, I won't say real friends, but like my main friends, the ones that I would go out to the movies or go shopping or go to parties and stuff like that, were not in band. And then I had friends in band, but they were mainly my friends that I would hang out with when we went to tournaments and stuff like that. So eventually we all kind of went to the same, events, to parties and stuff like that. But at first it was kind of separate. I did just band stuff with these friends, and then my other friends I did everything else with.
Did you know that Los Altos had a good band program?
Yeah. One of the main reasons why I stayed in band when I went into high school, because Los Altos, their band they traveled. So, like, I remember my freshman year, we went to Arizona to, like, what is it? The Fiesta Bowl? Is that what's held in Arizona? Or the Cotton Bowl? One of those bowls. It was, the football, like, Rose Bowl, but this was one of the bowls. So we went and performed for that. Like, my sophomore year, I think we traveled to go to Disney World to perform out there. And we also did a little cruise to the Bahamas. And then we did, more local traveling, to like different competitions and stuff like that. But that was one of the reasons why, so that I can, I guess, maybe get out of the house and go places. They were supposed to go to Japan in my senior year. But when I found out that they weren't going to go, I don't remember why they weren't going to go, then I kind of dropped out because I was more focused, I guess, on going out to parties and stuff like that in my senior year. So I didn't want to have to go to band practice or whatever. So, but had they gone to Japan, I would have stuck it out.
So, sophomore year, you said you started to going to parties. Mm-hmm. So, your first party, can you remember your first party?
Not really, and I can't remember exactly, but I mean, they were house parties. And I mean, nothing crazy. I mean, I'm sure it was crazy for other people, maybe, other kids that would do stuff, but I was never one who got crazy. Like, I didn't drink, I didn't do drugs, I didn't do any of that kind of stuff. I was the more responsible one because I was the one who drove, so I would drive my friends around. So
Sylvia wouldn't go to these parties?
no, she was older.
Okay.
And
She was already out.
She was already out of high school when I got into high school.
What about 2 years apart?
Veronica, when I was a junior, Veronica got into high school, and she actually started hanging out with me and my friends. I think it was more so because she was kind of a troublemaker, and she just always seemed to be getting in trouble. So my mom wanted, like, whenever I would go out with my friends, my mom and dad would always, like, kind of push for Veronica to go with my friends and I. So, to try to get her away from her other friends.
Did you ever act out against Veronica while you grew up because she would be getting more attention?
I just remember one time, I can't remember exactly how old we were, but I think it was before we moved to Ecuador, so it was before 5th grade, and I just remember, like, she would get on my nerves, and we were messing around. We were playing in the front yard, and I had, like, a hoe, one of those gardening tools, and swinging it around and stuff, and she got close, and I didn't purposely hit her with it, but she got too close, and it hit her, and it, like, made her bleed. Gave her a cut, and it made her bleed and stuff. And I just told her, you better not say anything, or else, I'll basically that I was gonna beat her up even more or whatever. So, yeah, I was a bully, I guess.
Did she say anything?
No, she never said anything. She cried and stuff, but she never ratted me out. No. Not until we were older, and we both told our parents what had happened, but no.
So Abu and no bullies didn't notice?
I mean, they did, but it was like she didn't make it a big deal. Like, kind of was like, oh, she didn't make it seem like, because she says that I did on purpose. I don't remember doing it on purpose. I just remember telling her that I felt bad, and then I felt like I was going to get in trouble because, like I said, she was the baby. So, like, if something happened to her, I would get in trouble. So I just said, if you tell on me, then, I would beat her up or whatever.
So fast forwarding back to high school, how was your relationship with her?
I didn't really want her going out with my friends and I at first. But then it was cool. We actually, our relationship got closer, and, I considered her one of my, even though she was my sister, I considered her one of my, like a best friend.
And then, what would you say your most memorable part of high school was?
Most memorable.
I think the trips and stuff that we did with the band, actually, that is what I remember most. Thank you. I had the most fun, especially the trip to Disney World and to the Bahamas. That was a lot of fun because we went on a cruise. I think yeah, the most memorable parts of high school were actually in band for me.
Did you ever party with Veronica in high school?
Yeah, probably my senior year, and she was a sophomore. Yeah, we would. That's when we actually were more closer, and we would go. She would come along to house parties with us. Yeah.
Was that weird?
No, not anymore, because I guess I got used to her going out with us. And like I said, we became close, and she was like one of my best friends. So I wouldn't say it was weird, no.
So how was graduation?
Graduation was, it was cool, but then it was also scary, because then it's like, oh man, then what are you going to do? Because then it's like you have to go to college, and it's like, do you move out of the house, go away to college? Do you stay local? Like, it was kind of, it was a little scary, but exciting at the same time.
Did you have a job before you graduated?
I think I got my first job when I was 16, and I worked at McDonald's, and that lasted all about a month. And my parents weren't really big on us working while we were in school, because they wanted us to focus on school, on our grades and stuff. So,
what changed their mind to you getting a job?
I think it's because I just asked, and I said, it's just, as long as I was able to keep up my grades, they were okay with it. And I mainly did it because my friends all work there. So it was just somewhere to go hang out and, be with my friends. But that, like I said, it only lasted for about a month, because then I didn't care to work there. Then I got a job my junior year.
Can you talk about how you left McDonald's?
Well, we were going to go to Ecuador for vacation. And so I had only been there a month, and it's not like they were going to give me all this time off. So I said that I had gotten hurt. I think I did get hurt, but it wasn't bad, like my foot or whatever. I had my sister, because Veronica and I don't necessarily think we sound alike now, but we did back then. And so I had her call and quit for me because I couldn't do it myself. Yeah. Again, that's because I was shy. So she called, and she was not shy at all. So she called and pretended she was me, and she quit.
So your second job, you went to...
My second job, I worked for Sears. Sears back in the day used to have a concession stand, I guess, like where they would sell chocolates and popcorn, and I worked that. So I think that's where my love for popcorn was born.
Yeah.
So after high school, you went to which college?
Cal State Fullerton.
And you were how old when you first got admitted into Cal State Fullerton?
I was 18. So I went right out of high school.
How old were you when you had Lex?
I was 20 when I had Alexis.
And what were your first thoughts about being pregnant?
Scared.
Why?
Well, one, because what are my parents going to think? What are they going to say that I got pregnant because I wasn't married? I honestly did not plan on having kids until I was older. So very nervous as to how I was going to be as a mom at 20. So, yeah, it was a crazy time. Because when I told my parents that I was pregnant, my dad actually didn't talk to me for a few months. So, yeah. So not a fun time, but it was scary. But then once she was born, everything was fine, you know.
And how was being a mother?
Scary. I don't know. It's like, because then you're concerned about this little being and making sure that, you know, that they're taken care of, that they have what they need, so it was difficult, and I was still going to school. So it was, yeah, we got a lot of help from my family, from my mom and from my grandmother, actually, to take care of Alexis. And then when you came along 4 years later, the same thing, you know, they were there. They helped out a lot.
So when you found out that you were having another kid, what were your thoughts then?
Well, at that time, you know, I was married, so it's a little different. So not a little, it's a lot different. And we were actually trying to have another baby. So it was a different experience because I wasn't, you know, scared to tell my parents I was pregnant or whatever, and I was excited. Not that I wasn't excited when I was pregnant with Lex. I think the excitement came later on in the pregnancy. I wasn't so excited at first, but when I became pregnant with you, it was more excitement from the very beginning throughout. So it was a different experience.
Who was the first person that you told when you were pregnant with Lex?
Well, obviously your dad. He would have been the first. But then it was Veronica.
What was her reaction?
She was like, oh man, like she was surprised and I think scared for me. So, yeah.
What about Sylvia? What was her reaction?
Sylvia, you know, I don't remember too much of her reaction. I think she was more like surprised. I don't really remember her like being judgy or anything like that. So yeah, because she had already moved out of the house and stuff, and um, she already had Danny, and then she was pregnant. Actually, I think she just had Pame when I found out I was pregnant with Lex. So, but she was more helpful, I think, as well, because she had already been through it. And, when my dad stopped talking to me, she was a little more like, it's going to be okay, just kind of supportive in that sense. But, yeah.
What was the first time you were discriminated against?
I'm not going to say that I was necessarily discriminated against, but I felt because I was a Latina that, I don't know. And I'm trying to remember where I was exactly. Honestly, I can't remember where it was, but out in the OC even, even though I went to school out there and all that, I didn't feel discriminated against at Cal State Fullerton at all. But just actually because I work out in the OC, and just being out there, that's where I felt, and not at work. I'm not saying that I was discriminated at work, but just going out to just go out, hanging out in the OC, like in, what is it, like by the beach areas. Like I just felt, I don't know, I felt like because I was a Latina, I wasn't wanted around there.
And what years was that?
I would say that's like within the last 10 years, maybe.
What moment in your life was it when you first witnessed someone being discriminated?
I'm like trying to think. What was the question? When was it first time?
Or what was the first moment you saw someone being discriminated against?
Like it's never been blatant discrimination, but just hints of it. Trying to remember.
Now, would you say you weren't discriminated against in the U.S. because you're kind of a lighter skin tone Latina?
Yeah, that could be possible. And it's weird because there are people that I've come across, that I've met and stuff, saying that they didn't necessarily think I was a Latina, even though I feel like I am. Like, I don't see why they wouldn't think that. but some are surprised that I do speak Spanish. I don't know, maybe it is because I'm a little lighter, but I don't know. Some weren't sure. They were thinking that maybe I was possibly Middle Eastern, maybe, or yeah, but not necessarily Latino. I mean, I've had some of my I have Afro-American friends that, you know, like I said, it's not blatant discrimination, but you could tell that just in the way they treated me compared to them, like say like at a restaurant or something, like you could just sense it, but it's not blatant, but you know it's there. Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So bringing kids into this country, were you scared of them being discriminated upon, or no, because you weren't really discriminated against?
I would say no. I think too, I don't know, maybe because growing up in Hacienda Heights, I don't know. I guess I didn't feel discriminated against because I went to school with a lot of white people. And I never felt discriminated by them, you know. So then bringing kids into this, I wasn't worried about that.
How did you raise us to have a better childhood than you did?
Well, you always try to. I don't know. Like, I didn't think my childhood was too bad, but just try to provide you guys with maybe more opportunities to do things than maybe what I was able to do. Although my parents were very... They were strict in the sense that when we were growing up, we weren't allowed to stay out late. We couldn't, you know, they would prefer for our friends to come over instead of us going and staying at friends' house. Unless they, you know, like my best friend Yvonne, I could go to her house because my parents knew her parents. My parents knew her parents. Did I say that right? But any other friend that I may have had, I wouldn't be necessarily able to go to their home. Now, when you guys, I think we were a little more open to that, and a little more, I don't know, I just feel like we just tried to besides band, I didn't do anything else. And my parents actually never went to any of my band things at all, ever. So when you guys were old enough to get into sports or whatever, and we kind of, you know, pushed for that, like for you guys to be involved in something, whether, you know, Alexa's even tried playing the flute, but it wasn't for her. So she got into soccer. You got into baseball. And I think it was, you know, us trying to be supportive and making sure that you guys, like, we would go to your games and, you know, or even practices when you guys were younger. Not so much when you guys were older, the practices, but we continued, you know, like, well, for me, go to your games. I felt that was important to show that we supported you guys in that sense. And any way that we could make things easier for you guys,
I don't know. But I think any parent would do that. So.
Hearing you say you do anything for your kids, what is your opinion on the college admission scandal that just happened?
I think that's shameful. Like, shame on those parents that they did that. Because, yeah, they're trying to give their kids a better education, but they're also teaching them, what are they teaching them? Because they're teaching them not to work hard to do that for themselves, but that you could buy your way in. That's not okay. That's not a good lesson to teach your kids, you know?
Mm-hmm. And these people who paid to get their kids into better colleges were predominantly rich people. So,
and that's another, it makes me mad because those kids got in not on their own merit. When there are other kids that are deserving of it and weren't able maybe to get in because one of these kids got their spot. You know what I mean? So it's not fair.
Have you seen any changes in society over the years, like you've lived in the U.S.?
As far as what?
Let's start with race.
Have I seen like racism or?
Yeah, how has like racism either developed or kind of like broken down during the years, and then I feel like it's kind of out in the open now.
Yeah, I feel like, in all honesty, I feel the whole Trump thing with him being in office, I feel that it's a little more out in the open. Like, you thought that we've come a long way as far as racism goes, but you see it a little more often now, like, I think, and I really want to say that it has to do with him being in office, honestly.
Because he's so open and saying this stuff in the public.
Yeah.
So he's kind of giving others...
He's inciting it, like, I think. Others may disagree, but I feel like he's making it okay for people to be racist, like, and to be open about it, and to, I don't know.
And do you see changes happening in the future?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think so. I think there will be changes.
Positive or negative?
Eventually, I think it will be positive, but I wouldn't doubt if things got a little worse before they got better.
Worse in what way?
Like, I don't know, maybe more crimes or, you know, more hate crimes and stuff like that. And then I think it's going to get to a point where there's going to be a majority of people thinking, okay, enough is enough, you know? And then I think there'll be changes. But I think it may get worse before it gets better.
I think that's it. Was there anything else you wanted to say?
No. I can't think of anything.
All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you.